Feeling good today. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Coach and Company podcast. We are here most every single weekday in support of our morning show. Hopefully, you guys caught it all on the Stadium Network or on YouTube or on social media. If you haven't, you can also catch it on demand throughout the day. Now, we never go longer than 20 or 30 minutes. We like to dive a little bit deeper. We are sports fans first, sports bettors second. So we rarely talk about betting here on the podcast, but sometimes it works its way in. Our schedule the rest of the day. Do not forget, we have a brand new radio show, Channel 156 on Sirius XM called Off the Ropes. We're talking Roman Reigns calling out today. Jelly Roll. In comparison to Travis Scott, how is he perceived? And then later, a special start time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. It is the Coach and Bro Show. And if you want to be a part of the show on camera, you can do that. Go to our socials. There's a link there. Last week, we started this every single Thursday. You can come on and argue, cut a promo, ask advice, whatever you want. You can get 3 to 5 minutes on the show if you so choose. All right, let's get into it. We had breaking news as we were going off the air this morning. And when you get to the end of July, all 32 teams have now shown up for camp. And this is when I really start to get excited because the NFL is king. And when I get through June and half of July, I'm done. I played baseball. I like baseball. But if I'm being honest, when it comes to what do I want to discuss, baseball is usually at the bottom of my totem pole. So now that we have NFL and we're about 6 weeks away, we are 30 shows away, man, I'm getting excited. However, for the Jets fans, I don't know how exciting this news is. Some probably are happy, others aren't. Justin Fields, who is in line to be the starter for the Jets this year, coming over from the Steelers, carted off the practice field this morning with an apparent toe injury. That, according to Adam Schefter on ESPN.com. No word yet from Aaron Glenn, their new head coach, on the severity of the injury, but you got Tyrod Taylor, and the other name of the other quarterback is not coming to my brain right now. But if you are Aaron Glenn, and according to Aaron Rodgers, he was disrespectful, made him fly all the way to New York just to tell him that we weren't going to go with him. You got to believe that Aaron Rodgers is one guy that doesn't feel sorry for Aaron Glenn right now, because the way he looks at it, it's usually all about himself. And now that he's with the Steelers, which is ironically where Justin Fields just came from, essentially they swapped. And I'll never understand, even if it's your worst enemy, I will never understand rooting for somebody to get hurt, or rooting or cheering when somebody does get hurt. I think it's a bad look when fans do it. And secretly, there are players out there, because there's only so many spots, that look at it that way. And I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is, but it would be kind of on brand, especially the way that relationship ended with 2 disastrous years in New York. One lasted 4 plays. Then year number 2 is very, very obvious to everybody that he couldn't move the way he always had because of that torn Achilles. So now in the near future, we'll keep our eyes on this. But what do the Jets do? I'm a Justin Fields fan. I know he hasn't been spectacular, but there have been times when he was in Chicago where I thought he was legit. And you talk about using your legs. He had a couple of games over 100 yards rushing. He can look dynamic. And to me, you put a really good team around him. He's got some really good wideouts in New York. Defense, legit. I thought he was in a really, really good place. So hopefully this toe injury is nothing serious, because I think the Jets could make some noise. The Bills obviously are overwhelming favorites to win their 6th straight AFC East title over the Pats, the Dolphins, and of course the aforementioned Jets. A lot of other topics going on today. You guys know we do a lot of pro wrestling here at the brand. And they had WWE night the other night at the Mets game. And I've been blown away since I started the Sirius XM show Off the Ropes. And this is kind of something that I was super proud of when I got to ESPN for that 10 years, is trying to knock down the door. And now there is no more, I like wrestling, or keeping it quiet. It's just all out there. It's all mainstream. It's all there, which is something I really, really appreciate. And it gives us something to talk about year round when the NFL is not in business. And speaking of business and the NFL, how about these numbers? And I could not help but think of what the WNBA is going through right now and the fact that all their players want a ton more money. They want more of the revenue split, and how the NFL is completely on the other side of that fence. I actually am starting to kind of feel bad for the WNBA players a little bit. And 9% is not enough, but they're not going to get 50. But if you're the NFL, and the only way that these records become public is because the Green Bay Packers are owned by, they're a publicly owned team. So as a publicly owned team, by law, they have to put out their records and the money they make and all that sort of things. So they received yesterday $432 million, 432.6 to be exact, which means every other team got 432.6, which means you do the multiplication, and there was over $13 billion in revenue for the NFL for last season. Think about that for a second. $13 billion in revenue. And there are actually people out there who say, oh, no player's worth $60 million a year. Well, I would argue you would be wrong. If you are an NFL fan and you're tuning in week one, let's say, to Sunday Night Football, and it's Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, how do you think NBC is going to market that game? It's going to be Josh Allen, the newlywed, settled down at home, but still doesn't have a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, multiple-time MVP, still doesn't have a Super Bowl. That's going to be the narrative. So the NFL, and this, it's rare that you even have to talk about this or make this argument, but now the salaries have become so astronomical, but it's based off of the revenue, supply and demand. You think Jeff Bezos, when he got to like 100 billion, said, no, stop paying me? Well, what he did do, though, is start to share it. And he was asked in an interview, he only has 11% of Amazon. And he's still, it's like a cash register that never stops going. And he's worth over $200 billion after going through a divorce, after giving his ex-wife something like $60 billion. Because his net worth, it never stops. So he's asked, hey, how come you don't take more? He said, how much do I need? I'm only one human being. So he can think about if he's 15, 20%. So he's willing, he goes, I would rather make more billionaires. Well, Jeff, I'll come work for you. But the NFL, they're doing the exact same thing. Big time revenue sharing. And the NFL money is not going to go down. In fact, they just signed brand new deals in the last couple of years. We're talking about Thursday Night Football now on Amazon. We're talking about Christmas on Netflix. All of those are new checks coming in to the NFL. I would love to sit down and just talk, because here at our brands, we're now just, it's a step-by-step process. And you have to establish your brands, which the NFL has been established for 50 years or 40 some. And then you take that next step of, okay, bringing businesses in with your business. That's where we are right now. And it can be somewhat overwhelming at times. Between me and producer man, it's constant emails, constant phone calls, constant meetings that most of them, nothing comes out of it. But if you don't take them and you don't do it, then for sure, nothing will come out of it. And the NFL now, they're kind of like the WWE in some ways, that they can take a dip in their product, or they can take a dip in how popular their shows are, but still be able to dictate top dollar for your content, because they really dominate in so many different ways. And now, as I think about what we do here, whether we're on a stadium show, a YouTube show, a show that we stream on socials, starting to learn how the multi-platform content is done. And I watch the NFL for a lot of that. And a lot of that revenue we're talking about today comes from digital, which is what we are. And so as the mindset has pivoted the last several years, you as a traditional sports fan, and I was in the same boat. When I got to ESPN, it was you pay, you know, $7 a month as part of your cable bill, and you get ESPN. Then ESPN Plus started. You got to pay extra for that. And then all the streaming services started. You got to pay extra for those. And now ESPN is in talks, reportedly, to buy the NFL network. And I believe the red zone. And as a talent, and whenever I talk to young kids, we have interns here, I say the business has changed and you've got to be ready for it or it's going to pass you by. If I tried to do the traditional route or what I did when I came out of college, start in Wichita, a very short period of time, Kansas City, and then the WWE, that would never happen today. My journey, my road would never happen today because everything has changed. The NFL seems to seamlessly change with it, and their money continues to go up. Other organizations, other sports leagues, what they should do instead of being jealous or not paying it, you buy into it. We recently sent producer man and Soupy to hang out with these Savannah Bananas, who have right now arguably the most successful model in all of sports. And that model includes leaving millions of dollars on the table. 20 years ago, never would have happened. 20 years ago, wouldn't have been possible. But they utilize what they can that doesn't cost them anything to their advantage, just like the NFL. What do I mean by that? Social media costs you nothing. So right now, constantly on Instagram, constantly on Twitter, you see the founder of the Savannah Bananas, Jesse, constantly doing videos about something the team is doing. Fan first. This guy buying a bunch of stuffed animals and throwing them out at a Savannah Bananas baseball game. He always makes it about other people because in today's society, we all want to be included. We all want to be a part of something. And that's what we believe in here at BTT Studios, coaching company, coaching bro, the last word. We all want to be included. We all want to be a part of it. And we have visions, we have dreams, just like the NFL did all those years ago, saying, how high can we climb? How big can we go? And that $432 million, that would tell me if I'm in those offices, we're on the right track. And if I'm a player, is it perfect? No. Do I like the fact that it is about guaranteed money? This is probably the one sport that will never change. And it's unfortunate when a player has a serious injury and they don't have the guaranteed money and then the team has to cut them instead of in the NBA or Major League Baseball where you get all your money regardless. And some would argue from the player's perspective that if the league's making $13 billion a year, they can afford to guarantee all salaries. It will never happen. It just won't because you start to add those up. And if you're playing, say each team, these are things I love to look at because they're not talked about and they're not amplified. Is most of the time a team will pay upwards of 70 to 80 players a year, but yet they only have 53 men dress every single week. That's because when a player goes down, they have to bring another player in. So you're talking, anywhere from 20 to 30 players extra that you had to bring in because of injury. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So we'll see. But it all is really, really crazy how it all works. It's how everything is moving right now. And from an education standpoint, whether it's you, the fan at home, or somebody like me that does this content professionally, I'm always learning. I'm always looking. And if you would have told me, hell, even 2 years ago, when I left CBS, that, and I hate when people do this, and it happened to me, and it really grinded my gears when they go, oh, coach, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Well, at the time, when you lose your income and you lose a job that you kind of like, but deep down, not really, and you're staring at your future. And I live in a place where I'm like 50 miles from downtown LA. So I have to work remote or travel. So when you're staring at that, oh, man, what do I do? Even for somebody who's been in the business a long time, I was like, where do I go? What do I do? And then you start to piece everything together. And now all of a sudden, it's a ton of fun. And we're super busy and we're busier than we've ever been. But that never would have happened 5 years ago. It wouldn't. But it's happening now. We absolutely love it. You're listening to the Coaching Company podcast. We're here most every single weekday. I should mention that the next 4 weeks here on the show, here at the brand, it's going to be a lot of outside of the friendly confines because we have 3 PFL World Tournament events, and many of you have become MMA fans through our show, which I absolutely love. I love my role at the PFL, and we're growing, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Is oh my goodness, oh my goodness, um, we have breaking news. We have breaking news. Um, Hulk Hogan has died at the age of 71. This just came across from Producer Man. It's on TMZ. He had been in really bad shape um, the last couple of months. And we had heard, we just didn't really report it because we didn't know how accurate the reports were. We had people calling me, and well, more so Vince than me. Um, so, what it says here at TMZ, medics were dispatched to the 71-year-old WWE Legend's Clearwater, Florida home early on Thursday morning today, with operators stating it was regarding a cardiac arrest. We are told a slew of police cars and EMTs were parked outside Hogan's home, and the icon was carried on a stretcher and into an ambulance. Uh, just a few weeks ago, Hogan's wife, Sky, denied rumors he was in a coma, stating his heart was strong as he recovered from surgeries. Wow. So he is, I'm just trying to think how to put this into context because this is it's it's very conflicting for me personally. But my interactions with Hulk Hogan over the years for me were good. He certainly has had a checkered history, really the last 25 years. But if you just focus on what he did for the business, and it's a business that would not be where it is. Hold on one second. Um, where or what it turned into, and boy, my phone is just lighting up. It is just absolutely lighting up. This is arguably the biggest name in the history of pro wrestling, and I always have to separate the two things. And a lot of my life, a lot of what I have, my 2 kids, I wouldn't have without pro wrestling. So just looking at that, you have to say thank you to Hulk Hogan today. And none of us are perfect. None of us have ever gone through life not having done things that we regret. But when you look at the pro wrestling business and what he did back in the 1980s, some of my greatest memories were my dad was a minister. So we always had to get up and go to church early every Sunday. So to watch Saturday night's main event, late on a Saturday night, I had to take a nap when I was 9, 10, 11 years old. And my parents didn't like me watching wrestling. And growing up in Kansas, we didn't have cable TV. And that was kind of the only wrestling that we got. So Hulk Hogan was everything. The yellow shirt, I remember getting that as a Christmas present. And somehow I spilled some oil on it. And I love that shirt so much that I would wear it even though it looked awful, like I had been working on a car. You had oil all over it, but it was Hulkamaniac. I was a Hulkamaniac back in the day. We'd get up early on a Saturday morning, have French toast, and be watching Channel 67. And if Hulkster was there, boy, you couldn't take it away. And obviously, we'll be talking a lot about this today on Off the Ropes on Sirius XM, channel 156. But this, and you can tell I'm really trying to pick my words carefully because I was just talking about this the other day that I've reached an age where I've certainly, like a lot of people, lost a lot of friends throughout the last almost 3 decades since I left college. But also, there are people out there, big time athletes, that when they quit playing or they pass on, it really it's kind of a mile marker for you in life. I've passed the point where I'm like, okay, I got to make every single dollar. Now it's about, am I happy? Am I doing things that matter? Am I doing content that I enjoy? And I enjoy pro wrestling content. And I remember when Kobe died, exactly where I was. I was at a WWE event in Houston, and all these things tie together. And meeting Hulk Hogan for the first time was a big deal for a young kid because that's all I knew. And so now it's going to be interesting to see how the wrestling world and the normal world, because he's one of the few guys that transcended the sport. He was one of the few guys that got outside of the box, which I know all too well because I dealt with it at ESPN, but he was able to do it in the movies early. He was in, Rocky. And I'll never forget, I was the voiceover guy when we inducted Hulk Hogan into the WWE Hall of Fame. And we were sitting backstage, and the old man, Vince McMahon, was sitting right next to me. And I was like the voiceover guy saying, coming up next, we induct Mike Rotunda into, and Sylvester Stallone was supposed to induct him. So it was, at like 45 minutes past the hour. So we had other guys to induct, but that whole hour was going to be about Hulk Hogan and packages and stuff like that. But he wasn't going to be introduced until like 45 minutes after the hour. Then he finished. And I'll never forget sitting next to Vince. And he's like, Coach, where the hell is Sly? As if I was in charge of Sylvester Stallone, as if I was the reason that Sylvester Stallone wasn't there on time. And the one thing that we rarely use, I never used in WWE, is a teleprompter. I think that's one of the reasons that I enjoy doing radio and podcasting and shows so much, is because it kind of separates you from people who are tied to the teleprompter and those that are not. We didn't use a teleprompter that night. Vince just didn't believe in it. So we're literally going to commercial break. And I thought I was going to have to induct Hulk Hogan because Sly wasn't there yet. So as soon as we go to commercial break, I'm like, coming up next, it's time for the one and only Hulk Hogan to take his rightful place into the WWE Hall of Fame. And right then, because it was one at one of those like sound stages in LA, so you could see out into where the cars pull up. So all of a sudden, this limousine pulls up, and out steps Sly Stallone. And you've never seen a human being, and Vince was great at this, at acting like nothing was wrong when just a minute before he was tearing people's heads off. And Sly comes in, and and Vince is like, hey, thank you so much, pal. Thanks for making the time. This is going to be awesome. And so Sly says, all right, where's my script? And Vince is like, script for what? And he's like, well, script is going to be in the teleprompter. It's like, well, we don't even have a teleprompter. Sly, you should see the look on his face, that normal face. And he went out there and destroyed it. He went out there and absolutely killed it. Talking about the experience of working with Hulk Hogan, what he did for the Rocky franchise, how he changed everything. And that also changed the wrestling franchise, because Vince historically did not like using celebrities on the show. Hulk Hogan was the reason, with Mr. T, for WrestleMania 1. The WrestleMania that we all know today, Hulk Hogan was in the very first main event with Mr. T. And he famously told me a story once, because he used to dress in our room on the road that I had every single week, called the pre-tapes room. We would do the home videos and all that sort of thing. And he would come in, and he loved dressing in there because nobody else was in there. It was normally a locker room that was made up into like a TV studio. And so we would allow him to dress back in the shower or whatever. And so he would tell us different stories about back in the day. And he famously, and this is classic Hulk Hogan, that he realized the day of the event that without him, company would go under, Vince would go under, and that whatever they were making, reportedly $500,000, Wasn't enough. So he, this is according to him, held out for more money. Now, how Vince got it, because Vince famously mortgaged everything for WrestleMania 1. If WrestleMania 1 was not a success, the WWE would not be in existence today. That's how much they had on the line, or at least not the version that we know of today. And Hogan knew that. And so Hogan, according to him, maybe he was just talking, said he held out the day of. Well, in New York, to come up with 100 grand to 500 grand in a day, you don't go to a bank. You go to other people. And I think about all the different ways things could have gone. And you talk about gambling, and we talk about betting a lot at this brand. That's gambling. That's betting on yourself. That's putting your entire future on the line for something you believe in. And Hulk Hogan was the face. So, Coach and company, rest in peace to Hulk Hogan. Hopefully, he is come to grips with a lot of things that he did. But from a human being standpoint, we always mourn respectfully those who have passed, and we will do that today. 71 years old, Hulk Hogan has died. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Do not forget Off the Ropes on SiriusXM this afternoon, and then the Coach and Bro Show. Plenty more on Hulk Hogan on the show this afternoon. We'll get into it with Vince Russo, who worked with Hulk, had a lot of issues with Hulk. So it'll be fascinating. You definitely want to tune in for the show this afternoon to hear the reaction to this news by Vince Russo. All right, that's going to do it for now. For producer man behind the scenes, for intern Dan, intern Brianna, I am the coach. This has been the Coach and Company podcast. There is only one. We'll see you tomorrow.